Madam President.
The senator from Missouri.
I thank you for the recognition, and want to join with my good friend from South Dakota and the comments he made about the disadvantage we've created for ourselves in the last 3 years by not moving forward with these trade agreements long ago. But we are going to move forward today. You know, jump-starting America's economy is going to require bipartisanship. And if we're going to compete in a global economy, it means we're all going to have to work together to help create economic opportunities for Americans who are looking for work, to create those private sector jobs that are the difference in a prosperous economy and an economy that's struggling. Last night, the motion to open debate on the president's so-called jobs bill was amended by his own party and was defeated then by a bipartisan vote here in the Senate. That's not the kind of bipartisanship we need. We need bipartisanship moving forward, not bipartisanship walking away. The bill was defeated because it doesn't make economic sense, as the president said in August of 2009, to raise taxes on job creators. And in fact, the administration, by its own accounting, says that roughly 80% of the people who'd be impacted by the surtax imposed by the bill that was set aside last night would be defined as businesses, the very businesses that need to create jobs in an economy where that should be the #1 priority. The president's first $800 billion stimulus plan failed to stimulate. It didn't really create the private sector jobs we need, and simply my view of the $450 billion we were talking about yesterday was that it was more of the same. But today isn't more of the same. Today is a bipartisan opportunity to move forward with a bipartisan bill and to help jumpstart our economy. If there's low-hanging fruit in job creation, it's exporting products to markets that want to buy our products. And this is not about labor conditions in Colombia or whatever might happen in Korea or Panama. This is about products that American workers make and whether they can get into those markets or not. Madam President, I'd say one other time that for well over a decade now, Colombian products all come into our country without a tariff under something called the Andean Free Trade Agreement. Well, so this can't be about Colombian labor, must be about American labor. And what can we do for American workers? We can open up markets for American products, and that's what we're going to do today as I hope we move to agree to these trade bills. These trade agreements would mean an additional $2.5 billion per year in agricultural exports. Every $1 billion worth of ag exports means an estimated 8,000 new jobs. In Missouri, the trade-related jobs grew by more than 3 times faster than other employment from 2004 to 2008. I recently asked Missourians on Facebook and Twitter to share some of their personal stories about how they thought these trade agreements would impact their lives. Glenn Cope, a young full-time farmer from Aurora, Missouri, noted, he said, quote, "Agriculture is not drawing young people to stay on the farm because it's difficult to make land payments based on what little we get for the products we produce versus the inputs, and this has been the case now for generations." Glenn called on Congress to help farmers by creating more demand for our products if we're going to get young people to stay and take over the farm. You know, Madam President, their parents and grandparents have produced food for our country and for much of the world for a long time now. Glenn Cope's generation can continue to do the same. Chris Chen, who runs a family farm in Clarence, Missouri, in northeast Missouri, told me that if these trade deals pass, her family could receive almost $11 more for every hog they sell. Now, she noted that while $11 may not sound like a lot, it sure seemed like a lot when they were losing $20 for every hog they sold from 2007 through 2010. That difference makes the difference in whether that family stays on the farm or not. Chris urged Congress to pass these agreements because this, quote, increase the revenue that will help us meet increased expenses and help us ensure our family farm will be there to pass on to my kids, according to her, who she said would be the 6th generation of farmers in her family. Barbara Wilson noted that agriculture fuels the economy in our small town of Mexico, Missouri. She told me that the passage of these free trade agreements would lead to an increased demand for our corn and our soybeans, and stressed that when the agricultural economy is good, the economy in our small town benefits. And that means increased jobs in all sectors of that small town economy. Brian Hammonds, the president of Hammonds Products Company in Stockton, Missouri, told me that significant government-mandated trade barriers are hurting his attempts to compete and develop markets for American black walnuts, which are harvested by hand in Missouri and other Midwestern states. Brian noted that if these trade deals pass, our company could buy more black walnuts from thousands of people in Missouri and 11 other states, providing cash to those rural areas. And even more importantly, the increased production activity from processing these walnuts would allow us to provide more employment for people in our rural Missouri community. These are just a few of the farmers and job creators in Missouri who've been calling on Congress to pass these trade agreements. I look forward to voting for these agreements tonight. I hope a huge majority of my colleagues join me in voting for the South Korean agreement, the Panama agreement, the Colombian agreement, and we send a message to the world that we intend to compete in a world economy. And if we're given the chance to compete, American workers can compete with anybody, and these trade agreements provide an opportunity to do that. And I yield back the floor.